Welcome back, everyone, to the Play-to-Rise podcast. We are so grateful to be here with all of you today. My name is Shiloh Dawn. We are here with Ava Aura, as always, and a treat for you. Halfway throughout the episode, we're going to be bringing in DiYeena, who is a Pleiadian being who Ava trance-channels and the collective of the living Ma. And so welcome to this episode. We're going to be diving into all things rituals and ceremonies and what the difference between a ritual and ceremony is, and some of the science behind it, the mysticism, and some of our own practices. And then we're also going to be asking DiYeena about ceremonies and rituals in the higher dimensional planes as well. So welcome to the episode. Welcome, Ava. Thank you for being here with me as always. We're going to go ahead and dive right in. So we're going to start off with what exactly is a ritual and the difference between a ritual and just a daily routine. Like, what is the actual signifying difference within that? What is the frequency? What is the tonality of an actual ritual? And so daily devotion is really what allows that ritual to start to bring in the circuitry. It's not just something that you do on a daily basis, like as in a routine, something that we can just do with intention, but maybe as we're doing the routine, right? The action that we're doing daily, are we actually bringing intention into the moment? Are we actually present with the ritual itself? And what is the intention that we're putting behind the ritual? Because rituals can be so incredibly powerful for you in many different aspects. Of course, the very obvious one is your spiritual growth, activating your spiritual gifts, connecting with your guides, building that circuitry with higher self and with your guides, really opening up your channel. It's literally the way that Ava and I have opened up our channels and built this relationship that we have with our guides. And there is intention with presence behind that. How present are you being with that action itself? Because we can look at anything as being a ritual. You know, Ava and I were talking before this, and we're like, you know, she was sharing her bath, her daily bath. My daily shower is my ritual. And so the invitation here for you is, how are you going through your day? Do you have any ritual, any practices that are ritual-like? Do you have any practices that bring you into a ceremony? And we're going to talk about the difference within rituals and ceremony as well. Or are you going throughout your day just in daily routine? Because there's also a science behind not only the spirituality, but also the physicality, that it actually rewires the neural pathways. It works with the prefrontal cortex of the brain and allows, if you're somebody that has like depression or anxiety, or you know that your physical body is in a stress state a lot of the time, your nervous system, you can feel it being dysregulated. When you're actually in a focused intention, present ritual, it sparks that prefrontal cortex and actually gives the body a break, and it opens up opportunity for that circuitry and also for the physical circuitry within the brain as well, where you can start to rewire the neural pathways in the actual brain chemistry, which is incredible. So this is physical, it's mind, body, and soul. And that's the power of ritual. And I know, Ava, you had some really good pieces around this. So I want to welcome you into the space and just hear your take on that as well.
Thank you so much, Shiloh. And this is such a juicy topic, because it just goes, we're all involved in these aspects all the time. And one thing we were sharing before we got on here was, you know, what is the difference between a routine and a ritual, you know? And really, when you look at it, the rituals and the routines, the difference there is really in the, like Shiloh was saying, the presence to it, because we're doing everything with some kind of intention. Everything has intention, whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's still intentionality there. Right. And so it's not necessarily all around the intention piece to it, because it's about when you're bringing conscious awareness to it, right? Conscious presence to it. You're bringing your whole presence to the moment, and you're really engaging with whatever the action is. And these actions are then happening in some sort of consistent way. So whether you're doing it daily or weekly or monthly or in a set timing or a set circumstance, there's some sort of pattern that is developing. And that's really the key word here, is pattern. When you're in a ritual, you're creating a pattern, and you're literally, your whole form is a pattern, right? And so we're actually wired as humans because we are made of patterns, right? And so when we are naturally wired to create patterns, and these patterns are in the form of rituals. They're in the form of things that we do in a consistent way that do rewire that frontal lobe, as Shiloh was speaking to, which is actually the same pieces of the brain that activate play, which we have a whole episode on as well. So it's really fascinating when you start to look at what is actually happening in the brain when we are engaging in certain activities, whether it is play or creating consistency in our life through ritual, through present ritual. Presence, is the key word here. And this is really something to get curious about for yourself, because it really does create this sense of circuitry. And this is the other big word here that you're going to hear a lot throughout this episode, is it's activating a circuitry. A circuitry with what? And where is that what is the circuitry? Is what? A circle, right? It's an energy that is coming from you, going out to another, and then coming back, right? And so what is the circuitry that's being created there, whether it's with your higher self or a specific guide that you work with, or another being in the room because you're having a ceremony perhaps, or perhaps you're engaged with another person, or you're in communication, or whatever the communion is. And it can be, another thing about rituals is they don't have to be complex, and this is another piece to it. Routines and rituals, Shiloh was just sharing a story about how, like, a friend of hers would have their morning coffee, and she's like, I just love my morning coffee because it's a ritual for me. And how many of us can say that? It's just, we love that morning ritual, whatever that is for us, whether that's getting up and going to the gym, or whether that's sitting down with a cup of coffee and a newspaper. There are these places where we actually have these ritualistic tendencies. And what is it that brings that ritualistic tendency is your present awareness to it. So there are those days where you're sitting there on a cold day, perhaps you're looking at the snow outside, at least here in Vermont we are, and sitting there with your, in my case, cacao, sitting there with my cup of cacao and looking out at the snow, and I'm just having this moment, and all of me is here. My whole present awareness is right here with this cup, looking out at the snow, and just having a moment of really, it's a sacred moment, because I'm connected I'm in circuitry with my environment. I'm in circuitry with the snow and with the cacao and with everything that's happening there. I'm in right relationship. I'm in an activated relationship with those pieces of life. And so that's really the piece. And then there's other days I've got my cacao and it's in a thermos, and I'm running out the door and taking the kids to school, and everyone's kicking and screaming, and nobody can get their snow pants on, and we can't find the other glove, and there's, backpacks flying all over the place, and every mother or father can relate to this story. And, like, where's the ritual in that? It happens every day. My kids are screaming, getting out the door every single day. And you could almost say that that's a ritual, because there is presence there in a certain way. Like, they are very aware that they are screaming in that moment, right? And so there's also these subtleties, right, of what is actually being activated. And that's where the heart piece comes into play. That's the piece where there's presence and there's circuitry, and there's actually this piece within the heart that's being activated, and that is being expanded into infinite possibility. And that's the piece for me, when I really tune in, that makes the difference, because it's not necessarily coming from these places within consciousness that have limitation. For example, coming at it from the mind, which has a multidimensionality limitation. There's a cap on it. When you go into the heart space is infinite. It's a bottomless well. It goes on forever, for infinity. And it expands into infinity as well. So it goes into infinity in both directions. So there is no end point there. And so when you go into that spot, it's like all of a sudden everything is possible. You're tapping into this infinite well of possibility. And that is the frequency that ritual becomes so sweet and so sacred, is because there is this element of unlimited expression within the potentiality of the pattern itself. And that's where we do get to have free will choice to come into whatever pattern it is that we're choosing in this experience. And that gets to be the play of it all. And that's, going right back into how it's all wired within the brain to really create this sense of playing in consciousness.
Wow, so incredibly powerful. And thank you for also bringing in like real life experiences with that, right? With the kids in the morning. And I'm also just like laughing over here because I had a very small experience where I was taking care of my nephew a couple months ago and taking him to school in the morning, and hockey practice at 6 a.m. And I just had such a deep appreciation for parents. I was like, wow, this is like every morning. All right. So yeah, it is this, it's from the most radical present moment with self, being in that circuitry, connecting with your guides, connecting to say if it's a cup of cacao, really into connecting into the circuitry of that actual medicine itself, all the way to taking your kids to school. It's really the intention and the presence behind it, which is so incredibly powerful. And this is something that's written within our DNA, right? Rituals are an ancient way of living. And it's interesting, I was just in Guatemala and I'm sipping cacao right now from Guatemala. And so even what Ava's speaking of, it's like, as I'm taking a moment, even while I'm on this podcast, being present as I'm sipping, I'm actually taking on the pattern of that land. I'm taking on the pattern of the medicine itself. And so we can have conscious awareness of that, and also be consciously aware in the moment as you're maybe in conversation with someone or needing to do something else. And so it's actually an opportunity to expand our consciousness, expand our bandwidth, to be in our multidimensional presence, where we can be present maybe to multiple things at one time. And these ancient rituals are embedded in our DNA. And so it is a remembrance, right? When we, just when I was walking through the streets of Guatemala, I was in Lake Atitlan. They're doing weaving, they're weaving baskets and making clothing from, from hand, by hand. And this is these ancient rituals and practices. Cacao, they're picking cacao beans and coffee there is a huge ritual. And I got to go to a place where they were offering cacao ceremonies and really witnessing how these ancient Mayan cultures really are in their daily rituals, and the understanding that that is embedded in our DNA. And so we feel called or pulled to create daily rituals for ourselves because there's something a little deeper going on there. Like, yes, it's great, right? Again, for activating the prefrontal cortex and rewiring the actual brain chemistry. And there's great physiological benefits to it. And it's also a higher calling, a deeper remembrance for us to come online, to come back into present awareness, to be in these ancient rituals, to be honoring our ancient ancestors, and to awaken those dormant codes within us. Because what it's doing is it's activating us back into the circuitry of our own heart, which is connecting us into the circuitry of all things. It's bringing us back into that unity consciousness and back into presence, where our power really is in the present moment. And so there's so many benefits to creating practices for yourself, creating rituals for yourself. And so that's really the essence of the ritual itself. And now, Ava, you had a really powerful way of expressing the actual difference, because there is a difference between just a ritual and a ceremony. And so I would love for you to dive into what the difference is between an actual ritual and a ceremony.
Yeah, that sounds great. So again, when we're looking at rituals, we're really talking about patterns, right? We're talking about things that we're doing within consistency, and they oftentimes have a set way of doing something, whether it's, so Shiloh, you briefly mentioned I have a ritual in the morning of taking a bath, right? And it's not just a bath. Like everybody has a routine, perhaps, maybe not everybody, but most people have a routine of taking a shower or a bath at some point in their day, right? And so for me, you could look at that, for everyone, it's a routine. For me, it's a ritual. And why is that? It's because I actually have my candles and I'm lighting them and I'm calling in my ancestors and my guides, and I'm having a conversation with them. It's actually my time in the morning. That's the first thing I do when I get out of bed is I go and I light a candle for all my earth guides, and I light a candle for all my star guides, and I sit in the bath and I commune with them. I just am grateful for them. Sometimes they'll have messages for me. Sometimes we'll have full-on conversations. And sometimes I'm just feeling their presence, and it's just silence. And it's a daily place where I'm choosing to be fully present, connected to my higher self, to my guides, to my ancestors, and having that activated circuitry there. And I'm going into that bath with that intention. I'm not just going in there to get clean, to clean my body, which is part of it. You're cleaning your energetic field as well in that. But there's really a deeper intention there to connect. It's really about connection for me. So that's something I do every day, with almost without fail, and so that's an example of a routine that I've made into a ritual because of the presence and the intention and the connection that's there, the circuitry that's created. Now, what would I call that a ceremony? Not necessarily, because a ceremony is the event. It's an event which can contain rituals. So rituals are these actions that we do in a patterned like way. And the ceremony itself is the container for these rituals to take place. And so a ceremony is a way that we hold for the transitions, that they're really marking these moments in times where our form is choosing to consciously move and transition into a new pattern. So we're literally moving into a new form, and the ceremony is there to mark the moment. It's there to hold the container for that transition, whether that transition is for a rite of passage ceremony. So for a young woman getting her moon, for example, she's coming into a new pattern now of being a life giver, right? And so that's a whole new expression that's coming into the form. Whether that's getting married, there's a whole new expression now because two are becoming one. And so you're merging with a whole nother pattern itself. And so that creates a new pattern. So you're literally taking on new form, changing your pattern, changing your expression, changing your vibration, changing how you're moving through the world. And so the ceremony is there to contain and hold that moment as sacred, because it is a sacred moment when a soul chooses to take on a new form, to move in expression, to shift in consciousness in any particular way, whether it be coming into life as a new baby and holding a ceremony for that. A lot of that happens, in different traditions for different reasons on different days, but as a baby, and, passing a life ceremony, at the end of life as well, and so we have all these moments, whether it's marriage or death, or even uncoupling ceremonies, these moments where we're consciously choosing to move into a new way of being, a new pattern, a new expression. And so ceremonies are really there to hold that frequency. And so it's different than a ritual in that way. It's not meant to be something that happens in a consistent way. It's something that's there to mark a very special moment in time.
I love that. So beautiful. And, that leads into the next question, because you also, we spoke into this as well, because this is actually something that I've even spoke out before, life being a ceremony. And so when I was really tuning into that, I was like, is that correct? Like when we're really diving into ritual and understanding ceremony, is that, and not that there's any like right or wrong to any of this, right? But when we're really tuning into the essence of a ceremony, is it really is it really accurate to say life is a ceremony? And you had such a beautiful way of expressing that. Did you want to share that?
Sure, I'll share that as well. And it took me a minute to really feel into this question when Shiloh asked, and I was like, I feel like if I zoom out far enough, we can say that with integrity and with truth. And what I mean by that is if you think about a soul, I think you can think about life as a ceremony if you're viewing it through the lens of the soul's journey. And what I mean by that is if you think of the soul as your soul before you came here on earth, and you're coming here with a specific intention, and you're coming here with a specific purpose and a specific lesson you want to learn, or a specific thing you want to experience, or a specific relationship you want to have, like you come here with an intention, right? So that's really, really part of it. And so if you think about Earth herself as being the container for that moment, because if you think about the soul's journey coming to Earth in this one particular timeline, it's really just a blip on the radar when you think about all the different parallel realities that are happening infinitely in both all directions. It's like, well, this is just one little dot of time and space, and so when you think about it from the bigger picture, you can really take this moment of this particular life and say, yeah, this is a ceremony, because this is a mark in time where we're holding for this particular fractal of soul to come into Earth and have this experience of pattern, have this experience of life. And Earth is holding you in that. Earth is holding your experience. And within that, there's all these little mini ceremonies that are taking place, all these little micro movements of transition, all these little micro movements, and sometimes not even micro movements. They're massive shifts in consciousness or awareness, or shifts into new forms of frequency. And so I think through that lens, we can say that life can be viewed as a ceremony. But I think the way that most people use that phrase, it does kind of undermine the purpose of a ceremony, which really is to really hold and contain very special and sacred moments in the arc of a human's journey. And there really are these markers. There are these moments in time, or these coming of age, these movements into fruition within the form, and they happen throughout all of our life, and they are really there as these blossoming flowers that come in time, that come for all of us in our due time. And we really are meant to honor these moments for each other. And so from that perspective, we're given this blessing and this gift of being able to hold ceremony for one another, to hold and witness each other in these transitional moments. And so it is meant to be sacred, in my opinion. It is meant to be held in reverence, and to be a little bit different than your everyday in and out reality, right? And so from that perspective, to say all of life is a ceremony, then how do we really differentiate these moments in time that are really are meant to be ceremonial, and really are meant to be held in a different way?
Yeah. So beautiful. I love that. It's really about the zooming out of it, right? When we're tuning it to our soul coming down here and choosing to have this experience. And when this life has come to its completion, I'm sure on a soul level we're going to be like, wow, that ceremony that I chose to go down there and play out this avatar of Shiloh and Ava was the most potent and powerful ceremony. But we really do have these really special moments here, and we get to honor that and the sacredness of it, and maybe not dilute it with just tuning into the whole life as a whole, unless we're really taking the time to zoom out. And I think it's the level of conscious awareness that we have when we're really speaking those words out. So beautiful and so incredibly powerful. And that really allows.
That also translates into plant medicine ceremonies as well. It's whatever kind of ceremonies we're involved in. It doesn't just have to be rites of passage, but it's these moments in time, because it's still, you're going in consciously into a space where your intention, again, is to shift your frequency and awareness and your pattern, right? And so it is still a movement in who you're choosing to show up as in your conscious expression. And you're being held in a container to mark that moment in time of you making a shift in that process. Just wanted to add that in, because ceremonies, there's many ways that ceremonies look, right? and it's different throughout all traditions as well. Everyone has their different ways of honoring and holding ceremony.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just expressing that I was in Guatemala and I went there to go into a darkness retreat. And so I did 8 nights alone in a dark cave, pitch black, no plant medicine, but just in there with self, called in my guides. And that was a really powerful 8-day ceremony for me. And I had intention behind it. I had an open heart around it, calling in my guides, really creating a ceremony for myself. And I didn't really need anything, right? Um, it was really just the void of light of going in there. And that was my process of voiding the light to going back into the 0 point of all creation. And, that leads into the next aspect of like, what do we really need for a ceremony? Do we even really need anything at all? Because, right, we can think of, I've been in many ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies, just like song circles or meditation experiences where I've gone into like Vipassana experiences, stuff like that. And experiences like that. And right, so when I'm looking with my actual physical eyes, and say if you're new to these experiences, you may look around and go, okay, I'm seeing incense and sage and crystals and maybe instruments or certain medicines, and are these things actually needed to have a ritual or be in a ritual or be in a ceremony? And the answer is, those things are great tools and allies to maybe enhance a ritual or a ceremony, just as Ava was speaking, right? Lighting a candle in the morning. That's also a daily ritual that I do. Something that I personally do as a ritual is every single morning, I light a candle that represents illuminating and activating the sacred light within me, that my sacred flame within me, honoring my life and activating my day, setting intentions for my day, calling in my guides, being very present with that. And at the end of the day, then I close that container down before I go to sleep, and I do the same thing. And so these can be really powerful tools. But when I was brought into the dark, right, of course I had an altar set up, but it was just me, myself, and my guides. And what really activated that to be a ceremony for myself is just what we've been speaking of the whole time in here. Really, all you need is an open heart. And with that open heart, you allow yourself to be in this higher circuitry. And that's what really brings in the deepest remembrance of who you are, right? Because again, it's these ancient rituals that we're being called to, whether we're even super aware of it or not, right? It's almost like this internal pull that we're feeling. It's something that's this ancient encoding, this intelligence that's just embedded in our DNA, that's calling us to open the heart and activate that circuitry and connect on a deeper level. And that's really the point that we're wanting to get across here, because we can even tune into like, what is the difference between a sacred ritual and maybe something that feels a little bit more empty? And you may have even experienced this before. I know that I certainly have. I've gone to experiences, or even I've been in ceremony spaces with maybe someone who's leading the ceremony space that's in a little bit of spiritual narcissism, and their heart is closed, and you can feel that, right? There's actually no connection to something greater. The connection is just to self, right? To ego. And you can feel that disconnect. Like, it feels like something's maybe just a little off, like something just feels a little off in this ceremony. And so also having awareness, if you're going to certain ceremonies and you're asking yourself, okay, is this ceremony really being run with integrity? Is this space really in right relationship and in a harmonious frequency? You can really tune into your own heart and feel, does it feel like hearts are open in this space? or the heart of who is leading this circle or this ceremony. Is their heart open? Is there a circuitry there? And that gives you a really good guideline to knowing that the rituals that you're practicing and or the ceremonies that you're attending, or maybe even the ceremonies that you're holding, is the heart open? Are you in a circuitry and in that higher connection? And is it based on the frequency of love? Because when you're in that frequency of love, in that circuitry, then you get to be open to the infinite possibilities of what's here for you in such a beautiful, sacred way. And that's what really creates the foundation of it just being sacred and beautiful. And that's where these really powerful, profound experiences, initiations can really take place within that space.
Exactly. So well said, Shiloh. And one thing that I'll add that was coming through as you were sharing is, that the tools that we may be called to use, or whether that again be incense or candles or crystals or whatever the thing may be, drums, rattles, all these different things. It's not that we can't use them, right? As Shiloh was saying, they can enhance, but what they're actually sharing with me is that use a tool if it is going to assist in amplifying the pattern that is intended to be, that the one involved is desiring to shift into. So for example, if a drum is going to activate the new pattern within the form, that's a reason to use a drum. If you're just going there and drumming because you think it looks good, or because you think it's what you're supposed to do for a ceremony, that's not actually creating the intended pattern. It's not actually creating the right shift, And so it's really important that if you're choosing to use tools, that there is actual real intention and real connection with that particular tool to understand its purpose and what it's there for and what it's doing. And if you have no idea what that thing is doing, you just think it looks pretty, well, then it doesn't mean it has to go. But have it be that if you're having flowers in the middle, say, these flowers are here to represent the beauty of what is happening here in this space. If the flowers here are holding the beauty and holding the pattern of all of life, and we're honoring the pattern that this one is choosing to move into. So in that sense, the flowers now are holding a purpose, and the flowers can feel that they're holding that intention, that that's their role in the space. So if you're bringing things into the space, making sure that all the elements know their role, know what they're there for, so the rocks and the water and the plants and these all the fire, these all are alive, so if you're lighting a candle, tell the fire what it's doing. If you're lighting incense, tell the crystals what they're doing, tell the plants what their role is, tell the water what it's there for, and ask it to support that process of repatterning the soul, And so if you're going to use these tools, use it in an intentional way, in the same way that you're activating your own circuitry within your heart. Be aware that these elements are also alive, and they're there to support the expansion of this new pattern. They're there because they hold the patterns, they hold the codes, they hold it in their essence because it's connected to the earth, and the earth contains all patterns, as do we. And so it's simply choosing what frequency of pattern is wanting to be expressed and experienced through this process of being in a ceremony. And so when you do it through that lens, then everything holds intentionality, and it doesn't have a lick of ego in it. There's no space for spiritual ego in that, because you're simply just being in right relation with everything that's there.
Yeah, that's so powerful and such a great point. Thank you for really bringing that into the space. That was really sparking up a memory that I have actually very recently. Last year in October, I sat in a really powerful sacred ceremony with some indigenous shamans here in Austin, actually. And part of the ceremony was using your voice. And so also, right, we can have these external tools, and we also have in personal tools like our voice. And part of the invitation in this ceremony, it was in a medicine ceremony, was singing a song. And now I've never sang in front of people ever in my entire life, other than, my very close people. And there were like 30 people in this circle, and over half of them I had never met before. And I was really nervous to sing a song in front of everyone, because I don't believe that I have the most beautiful or angelic singing voice. And that was the message that came through, is I'm not singing to sound good. There's an intention behind, and not that it was, anything is really bad or wrong, right? It's like, really, what is even a good singing voice to a what we would quote not a not good one, right? Like, or the tonality of it. And so my point to this is, I sang the song with intention of, this is activating my own sacred song that DiYeena actually speaks of quite often. This internal sacred song, this tonality, this frequency, this soul's expression, authentic expression that we all have. And so I sang the song, and I don't think it sounded the best to the actual external ear, but it didn't matter. So even in that, I was able to get out of this non-judgmental or judging myself of what it even sounded like, knowing that there was a deeper intention behind the actual singing of the song itself. And the song that I was singing was connecting to the earth. And so I was bringing in the pattern of the earth, grounding myself into the earth. And so the reason why I share this with you is because we can also utilize our voice or physical body, or utilizing these tonalities of, if you're going into ceremony and you're invited into singing, and you're thinking, I don't have a great singing voice, and I have fear around that. Knowing that there gets to be even a deeper intention behind that. Can you really allow yourself to be in your soul's highest expression and have intention behind the actual song itself? Because that can be such a deep unlocking of your actual throat chakra. And I'm sure for yourself, I know for myself, I could feel all of my ancient ancestors behind me, of all of the women that their voices were just hushed, right? And lives literally taken for speaking and singing and being in that spiritual expression. And then I got to do that around the fire in community, and fully letting go of, does this sound good or does this not sound good? Knowing that there was a deeper initiation that was actually taking place within that ceremony. And so there's so many different tools that we can utilize with the right intention behind it.
Oh, that's so powerful. I love that so much. And it really speaks to this place that I think a lot of, especially, there's this journey we go through in these realms of being spiritual, right, on earth. And you're like, we all have our different ways that it shows up, right? It's like we get really excited, and we start devouring every book, and we start buying all the incense, and start doing the things that spiritual people do, right? And so we start having our first experiences of like having a ceremony and having these rituals, and creating these things for ourselves, and just really immersing ourselves in this very innocent, very new energy, right? Which has a sweetness to it. And there's also this place in that newness that can get a little bit caught up in, am I doing this right? Or what do people think about me? Or do I look, the imposter syndrome piece comes up, right? Especially when we first start to step into holding a container for our ceremony for others, right? It's like these things start to come up for people. And I think it's important to speak into, because we do have a lot of rising leaders on listening into these conversations. And, this is an important piece of when you're really in the right frequency, it really does unfold the way that it's meant to. And it really is the way that the power of the ceremony is in the intention, right? And so when you're able to really set the ego aside and not have those thoughts and those fears running full circle front and center, and they show up in lots of different ways. They can show up as like putting on this layer of like, look at me, I'm this shaman that's doing all these things and showing up in this professional way, or whatever the case may be. You know, we try to, it's just the way that the human operates is hilarious sometimes, in the way that we do all these things, you know. But when we really strip it all down and we really just kind of allow our hearts to lead in the container, this is what happens, exactly what you're speaking to, and how powerful of a moment we can create and we can be a part of and witness in others as well, when we simply allow the heart to lead the way in these moments, and really allow that circuitry to be the guiding force through it all. And it just really becomes a beautiful expression, rather than something that has to have all this tied up in all these egoic pieces of needing to be validated in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So beautifully said. And, you know, it all comes back to the heart. Is the heart open? And are you listening and tuning into how you're being guided, and what that connection is with your higher self? Because when you're connected into the circuitry of your heart with your higher self, especially, that spiritual ego really gets to be dissolved. And we're invited into that in so many different moments throughout our life. And it's, are we leaning in, or are we staying in the state of fear and continuing to stay closed off? Because just what you were sharing, right? I've been to experiences that it looked really good from the outside, right? But you could feel the hearts closed off when you actually got into the center of the circle. And when you get into the center of a circle where all of the hearts are open, it doesn't matter what you're wearing or what you look like or how many crystals are in there, or whatever the case may be. It's a different experience. You can feel it. You can feel not only the sacredness of the circuitry of the connection of the space, but you can feel the power that is there, and this ancient remembrance of you know, of also gathering in these ceremony spaces. And that's the ancient remembrance within our DNA that's opening and activating as well, which is why I feel like so many of us are called to these experiences and the yearning for that. And so I really feel like as well, right, the daily rituals get to be you staying in that circuitry and that connection, so that when you're maybe in your own experience, that you're not going from, like, I'll just say it in this way. It's almost like it feels like the integration, right? If you go to a ceremony, you're in connection, your heart is blasted wide open, you're feeling connected with everyone in the space. And then you go home and you're by yourself and you're in your home. And then all of a sudden, right, the feeling of the disconnect, the illusion of being alone again. And then all of a sudden you're in this integration and you're feeling very disconnected. Well, the way to continue that integration, that connection, is to stay in ritual, to keep your heart open, to stay in that circuitry. And that keeps you connected at all times, so that you're not falling back into that illusionary experience of I'm alone, I'm disconnected, right? Which is where integration can be very hard after a ceremony sometimes. And even that anxiety or that depression can come back in. And so it's, again, it's all comes back to keeping the heart open and staying in that circuitry.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah. So I would love to bring in DiYeena. I know we have some really powerful questions for her. Know how you're feeling. If there's anything else you want to share before we bring her in.
I think this is a good time to bring her in.
Amazing.
Yeah. So for anyone that's tuning in for the first time, welcome. We're so glad you're here. I am a trance channel, which means that different than conscious channeling, which is a lot of what you've been hearing here today, where we're able to just be in our bodies and listen to our guides and hear the messages and communicate them clearly without, any major distractions here. But with trance channeling, it's a little different. I'm taking actually a little bit of a backseat in my body, and I have a relationship with specific guides, not just anyone or any being. There's very specific guides and contracts that are in place here to bring forth information and frequency for all of you. And the specific one that comes through the most is DiYeena. She's my gatekeeper, and she's a Pleiadian, and she's here to bring forth messages of love and light for everyone, and also just hold in that frequency, the Pleiadian frequency, as we go through this transition here on Earth, as we step into this new paradigm. So she's here for it. I'm sure she's going to be. I'm excited for this conversation. I'm really excited. We haven't asked her these kind of questions. Both Shiloh and I would consider ourselves star seeds ourselves and feel very fond of the Pleiadian frequency ourselves. And so it's not necessarily something that we're like, oh yeah, what is the Pleiadians like, and what are they doing? And like we kind of have a little bit of a blinder. I will just name it, like a little bit of a blinder in that sense of having that as much curiosity as maybe somebody that isn't familiar with it or hasn't experienced it before would maybe have some kind of questions. So we're really in this one, we're really like, yeah, what is going on up there? What is going on in the Pleiades around ceremonies and rituals and things like that. So it should be a fascinating conversation. I'm looking forward to it. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and go right out, and I'll put you in touch with Pleiadians. Here we go. Greetings, this is DiYeena of the Pleiadian family. You see, we are here. You see, we first like to say to bring the love. You see, we are here for the love. You see, and we also like to say to sip the earth. You see, because we are coming into the form. You see, we like to know where we are on her body and also connect with all of you. So if you have a sip, you may have. You see, we have together. You see where we are. You see. And for those that are new here, you see, you'll get it in the habit, you see, or what we'll say the ritual here, you see, because we are talking these fancy words, you see, today. Getting in the ritual of it, you see, we are getting in the circuitry, we're opening the heart. So this is our little ritual that we do every time here. So it is very good, you see. So you can get into the ritual of when you come and listen to this little show here. You can bring your drink as well, and then we get to be two rituals together. You see, get in the rituals together. So here we are. Very nice. You see. Well, we hope you are all doing very well. You see, we are here. We believe to talk about the rituals more. You see, my dear. How are you, my dear Shiloh?
Yes, I'm doing so well. How are you doing today, DiYeena?
Well, we are grooving. You see, we are grooving as usual. You see, we are
Amazing. Well, we're so excited to have you here today. As always, so grateful, just sending so many blessings back to you in return. And Ava and I are so curious, as Ava was speaking to, even though we get to connect with you often, we still have curiosity. And even though we know that we've lived many lifetimes in the Pleiades, we still have this curiosity. And I believe that so many of our viewers do as well, because we all have, right, these Pleiadian codes within us. And so I feel like the more that we get to understand and ask questions even about yourself and the Pleiades, it allows us to activate those dormant parts within our own DNA of the deepest remembrance of, oh yeah, I remember, or that feels like it resonates with me. And so we have a question around, of course, right, rituals and ceremonies. We're staying in the theme of the call. And so the first question is, do the Pleiadians have rituals? And if so, what rituals do you specifically have?
Well, it is a good question. You see, this is some of those basic questions, you see, that we would expect you to ask a lot sooner, you see. But we give you a little grace here, because we understand that you've just been hanging out there. Maybe you didn't think to ask, you see. And what we'll say first and foremost is you've got to understand here, DiYeena is Pleiadian frequency, of course, you see, as well as all the other frequencies, you see. This frequency here that you call DiYeena that comes through here is very multidimensional. You see, it's not just like hanging out at sixth dimension in Era, for example, on the Pleiades, you see, in that particular. This is not necessarily the frequency you're connecting to, you see. It's a little bit more broader scope than that, you see. So we pull in the thread of the Pleiades, you see, because it's my favorite, you see. It's my favorite, you see. So it's one that I call home, you see, because it is the one that I love the most, you see, of all the places I've been, you see. It's really the sweetest for me, you see. So we all have our favorites. We've all been everywhere, you see, and we all have our favorite, you see. So you can say, well, I feel like I'm Pleiadian because it's my favorite, you see. And so it's not even that we are 13-dimensional, you see. It is infinite dimensionality. So the frequencies of the ones that are coming through the Ava here are the frequencies of the ones who have mastered in their multidimensionality, you see. So they are way beyond 13. They are way beyond 6. You see, they're way beyond 5, whatever the case you see in that particular way. And in that way, you see, we're able to move and shift, you see, as needed, you see, as necessary, as desired, to support. So the ones that come through here are here as vessels of support for the transitions that are happening, you see, for the humans, you see, and for in many other places as well. But they're here to hold in the remembrance, you see, of who you truly are, you see, as the infinite multidimensionality, fractals and consciousness and wholeness that you are, you see. So from that perspective, you see, DiYeena is really able to pull in that strong Pleiadian thread for you all, because it is what is needed here on your planet right now for many reasons, you see. So it's a necessity from the sense that first of all, you really do need more love. You see, you need the love. You see, so the Pleiadians got that one figured out a little bit. You see, we are really in that frequency of play and the love. You see, so we were able to hold in that frequency easily for the planet to support the shift into the new paradigm. You see, so that's a little bit what's happening for those that choose it. For those that choose a new paradigm, we are holding for that experience. You see. So that is what's happening now. You have many souls coming in. We will get to the question. Do not you worry. You see, we know we are getting a long-winded way to it, but we are going to get there. You see, so we are there supporting that. You see, that shift for everyone. You see, and so the Pleiadians, you see, are those beings that have had some choosing to have the physical embodiment on a physical planet like Era, for example. That's very similar to Earth. You see, so not too much differences. You see. Also water planet, you see, also has very much similarities. You see a little bit higher density, so more in the expanded dimensions of love, connectivity, telepathy, things like this. You see more harmonious relations with the technologies, way we relate to technologies is more in alignment with the natural laws of the universe, things like this. You see, so that is all happening for certain beings. You see, and many of you have had these experiences. You see, and then we also have frequencies that choose to be in the Pleiadian energetic, you see. And it's a little bit different than choosing to incarnate onto a form within these star systems, you see. So the energetic then is simply many souls that will choose to be, so for example, guides for those who are embodied, you see, similar to what's happening here. You see, we have the guides who are supporting the humans in the forms, you see. So we have our guides. So we have many the fractals that choose to be the guides, you see, for the Pleiadians, you see. And then you have those that are, who are really fractals in many multidimensionalities, you see, who have really mastered through it all, who can appear and bring into form when necessary. You see, so this is more what you call DiYeena. You see, this is more the frequency. We can come and move through form. You see, as necessary. You see, so we hold in this frequency of supporting both Pleiadians and Earth primarily. You see, but there are many other ways we have supported in the past. You see, but this is the main thread for DiYeena. You see. So from that perspective, you say DiYeena has been embodied, you see, on Pleiades, but been a while. You see, you would consider your DiYeena here to be like a great many greats grandmother sitting around your campfire telling the crazy stories, the one you only let out on the weekends because you never know what you're going to say. You see, something like this. You see, the one that you just really, she's just really, you never know what's going to come out, you see, because this is just a crazy wise old grandmother, you see. But it is one from when your timing, when the humans were living much longer, you see, or to be that one that you just say, oh, we don't know how long she's going to choose to stick around here, but this is quite a while. And she's just getting more hilarious and more unpredictable the longer she sticks around, you see. Kind of like that, you see. So this is what's DiYeena, you see. So we've had the lives, you see, had the times, had the experiences, you see. Now we're at the place where we can just choose where to go, you see, and choose when to bring the form, you see, to bring into 2 dimensions when necessary. You see, so from that perspective, we can tell you about the Pleiades for sure, you see. So this is no problem. So here we are. Now we're going to answer the question. Here we go. So you are wondering about rituals, you see, on the Pleiades, you see. So it is very similar to Earth in the sense of its original design, where, yes, we do have rituals, you see. What you could say is it's more like more of a So you have your versions here, you see, in the third dimension, and you are doing all of your things and getting all of your props in place and whatnot to create an experience, to connect with us, for example, or your guides or your higher selves or straight to source, whatever you're doing, you see, for whatever intention, you see. And it's a big show, you see. And we do not mean it in a negative way, but there's often a lot that's involved, you see. And for on the Pleiades, it's very simple. You see, it's very simple. It's simple way of, because it is already, like you were saying with the life being the ceremony, we cannot quite say it like that because there is a differentiation. That is the whole point. That is what makes a ceremony a ceremony. There is a differentiation of containment, you see. So we create differentiation of containment for moments, you see, similar that you do for like rites of passage, for example, for transitions, you see, because we have similar transitions that you would have, what you would consider on your earth, you see, where we do have the mothers having the babies, for example. We do have, marriages, for example. We do have, life, death, these kind of things, the circles of life and going through. And when we say death, we do not mean it in the way that you relate to it, you see. But we do have moments where transitions will happen, you see. But these are really much more conscious transitions than you are used to on your earth. More of the stories you would hear about your great masters or avatars from your planet, you see, the ones that would just ascend with their bodies, kind of thing, more like that, you see, where a soul will just decide that they are complete in this particular dimension and timeline, you see, and that they're going to transition their focus to a new one, you see. And so they do that with so much intentionality that the community will come together to hold in that moment, you see. So we do have these ceremonies, you see, and we do utilize the frequencies of the elementals as well in the same ways that you do, you see. But it is all what you would consider like amped up a little bit, you see. So if you are doing it at the 3 down here, for example, you see maybe an 8 or a 9 over there, or having a party with it, and not necessarily the kind of party you think about, but it is that level of energy coming to the moment, you see. Because there's already such resonance, so much alignment, so much attunement that is already present on a day-to-day, that to hold the ceremony, the frequency is such that it is really coming together to amplify that which already is, you see. So it is that which is already is. And then it is more conscious. It is more conscious movement through creation, you see, up here. So it is more intentional in the sense that there is awareness of what is happening. A little bit what Ava was talking about the pattern and the shifting into new dimension of frequency and new vibrations, new way of being. There is such level of understanding on the form, the level of the Pleiadian form of what is happening through these moments in time, through these shifts in frequency, that there is, wow, we're going to make a conscious choice now to move into this frequency, move into this pattern. And everyone can witness that pattern, you see, very clearly. You see it. Everyone can see, almost with the naked eye, you could see the differentiation in the pattern. So it's a moment where you are actually holding the shift in the pattern, you see. So it is really like witnessing the new, you see, witnessing the new. Is this making sense to you, my dear?
Yes, it makes perfect sense and brings me into a deeper understanding of just everything that we've been speaking of as well. And what I'm hearing is that, just what Ava and I were speaking of, right? So rituals are bringing us into more present awareness, and it's bringing us into a place of going from the unconscious to conscious, to presence, to opening the heart, to being in circuitry. But in the Pleiades, because it is a higher dimensional field and realm, that you are already heart open, present, more loving awareness. And so maybe they're like, you're still doing the rituals and ceremonies, but that they're almost, what I'm hearing is it's just it's more common just for all of your movements to already be in that frequency of open heart, connection, presence, because that is just the frequency that you're already operating. And that's the level of awareness and heightened consciousness that you're already operating in.
Yes, so the level that you are go to within your ceremonies, that the frequency that you raise into within your ceremonies is still not even the level, the frequency that is happening on a day-to-day in the Pleiades, you see.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you see, you have to understand that imagine your most intense ceremony where you're feeling the most heart open, the most connected, the most inspired, the most love, all these things, you see. That is the day-to-day there, you see. That is the day-to-day, you see. So imagine that being your day-to-day experience. And then imagine having a moment to separate a, a moment to separate a very special shift in frequency for one of your beloved souls, you see. And so you would literally create a party that's amping it up even more, you see. So these are moments, you see, and that is the more the Pleiadian way, you see, is more in the realm of the party, you see, in the play of it, you see. So there are lots of dancing, lots of singing, you see, lots of songs, you see. The song would be there. This is one thing you may find interesting. You see, is that the way the Pleiadians would move through the ceremony, they would all sing. There would be a singing of the new pattern, you see. So if there's a soul, for example, we'll say getting married, you see, there's the couple going into a union, you see, because we're now creating two individual fractals of pattern now coming into oneness, creating a whole new pattern. We'll see there is awareness on the Pleiades for all the souls there to tune into what is the pattern that is being created by these two souls coming together as one, you see. And so all the souls will now be singing the song of the one, you see, the one that is being created, you see. And this is what is happening, whatever the transition is into, you see, whether it is the birth of a child, you see, singing the soul song of the child, for example, you see. So there was a lot of singing and dancing and drumming, whatnot, all these things, you see, to align and sing, actually create with voices, you see, the actual pattern that is coming alive, you see. And so this is a way, because the place, we love the music, you see, we love the jams, we love the good beats, you see, we love the singing and the playing and the song, you see. And so this is a way that we will move through the transitions, is through the activation of the voice, you see, through the activation of the voice, because that also activates the new pattern, you see.
Wow, so powerful. That just brought such a big smile to my face, because just the thought of like the experiences that I've had being in my ritual practices and in ceremony specifically, and the feelings of this, or the awareness of this heightened level of awareness and presence and heart open, and being able to see the pattern and really not only see it, but feel it to the depths of my being. To just, as you were speaking that, I could feel the truth behind, oh, that's just how it is all of the time up there. And there was just something in me that just opened up, of like this awe and wonder of the magic of just the feeling and the essence of that. And so I would say then, what I'm feeling, or what I'm hearing or understanding on a deeper, like, cellular level, is this is the reason why we're even called to rituals and ceremonies, or feel pulled on a soul level, because it is the remembrance of what we're evolving into, or the higher aspects of self that are even existing in these other dimensional fields, that it's calling us to be in the remembrance of how we actually operate in these higher realms, and that connection, which is just so powerful. And I'm even just like bringing up, or like feeling into how, whenever you come in, DiYeena, you have us, we come into a ritual practice together by drinking our earth drink and opening up the circuitry of our hearts, and connecting with not only what we're drinking and connecting to that area on the earth, and then connecting with the earth, but we're also opening all of our hearts and connecting together. And so by you calling us into that ritual, it's also you inviting us into the remembrance of that frequency of our soul essence, and how we're being expressed through the multidimensional layers of who we are. And so that just feels, I'm just understanding the reason why we do that on a deeper soul level. And that brings me into the next question around, which I know that the answer is going to be yes, but I can't wait to hear what you want to share around this, is just because of what I just shared, right? That is influencing us and impacting us, even in this very, what seems subtle, but now I'm realizing it's not so subtle, just the invitation of us all coming together with our earth drink. And so have the Pleiadians...
Before you ask the question, we want to say one thing, you see, which is to come back to the earth drink, you see, because a very important part, you see. And you're right, it is activating these codes of circuitry, you see, that we all carry within us. You see, we all carry specific codes, you see, that inform one another, you see. And when we come together in the frequency and the element of water, because that is the essence of all that we are consuming, no matter what herbs or earth we are adding to it, you see, there is a frequency of the water which carries to all the dimensionalities, you see. So it is connecting us into the codes of anyone that is tuning in and drinking with together. We are being reminded of these particular codes that each one of us share together, you see. And so we all are remembering these parts of ourselves, you see. And then we are also being reminded of the codes that are contained within the earth, you see. So be very helpful if we start to invite all of the listeners here, when you are drinking your drink, to just type it in the chat, you see, or the comments, or wherever you can, you see. Type in where you are from, what you are drinking, what you are consuming today, because that helps us all have the intellectual understanding, and we can then place ourselves in these opportunities of coding, you see. And it is going to help to awaken these spirals of activation within yourself, you see, because we are so connected to one another, more so than we even know, you see. And time is not a thing, you see. So even if you are watching this in weeks or years in the future, or whatever you want to call it, you see, it is still now, you see. So whenever you are sipping, you are still in that circuitry, you see. It is the same time. It is the same. So whenever you are watching this, to have a sip, you see, even if it is just the water and you are not having any tea with it, you see. But even to put that, say, I'm drinking water today, you see. Put it in the chat, put it in the comments below, because this is important information. And it also connects us as community. It also connects us deeper as community, to hear from one another. And also to know where you are all tuning in from. This is very important. Say, oh, hello, you're right down the road from me. Or, whoa, you are all the way on the other side of the planet. You see, what is it like over there? You see, gets us to know one another a little bit better. And it's a very simple thing to say, I'm tuning in from Croatia, and I am drinking some water today, or I'm having some green tea, whatever it is, you see. Having that moment, you see, for yourself.
I love that so much. I'm going to drink some water with you.
We laugh. It's so good. Now you can ask the question, my dear. We did not mean to interrupt, but we did mean to interrupt.
Yes, no, of course, by all means. So the question then was, have the Pleiadians influenced historic, ancient, and indigenous ceremonies and rituals here on Earth?
Well, you really want to know the answer to some good questions here. So, well, you got it right. You see, of course, the answer is yes, you see. But why is the answer yes, you see? So you can go back to the times when Pleiadians really saw a moment on your planet where there are certain vibrations and frequencies of extraterrestrial races that were coming in and really tampering with the DNA of the original human, you see. And because the humans and the Pleiades are so connected, you see, we made a decision, knowing that it could not go our way. You see, we made a decision to come in and basically reseed the population, you see, back to the original blueprint, you see. And so that was the intent. So reseeding in the different continents on your planet, you see, these seven continents on your planet, you see, reseeding these, you see, a little bit, you see. And then also in the waters, you see, with the animals, you see, coming in the bodies as well, you see. And so the way that we would do is more through getting a little off topic, but we're on the track, so we're going to say, you see, because it is all actually probably more connected here than we realize, you see. But we came in through what you would consider Parthenogenesis, where there is no masculine energetics, you see. So it's the seven sisters coming in to see the population here, without with the androgyny of wholeness, you see, within the form, not necessarily needing external sperm to procreate, you see. So coming in and seeding that through the divine circuitry, you see, which we are very skilled at, you see, and then you have lineages coming in here, continuing that thread, you see, continuing that knowledge of how to do, you see. You have your superstars here that you know about, you see, that have done this, you see, probably Mother Mary being the most famous in your world, you see. But you have these kind of stamps in the time, you see, that but you have to understand the history of the Pleiadians to understand how there is influence then in what you consider your indigenous cultures, you see, because this is really the same frequency, and it is really all connected in, because when you are attuned, you are attuned. It doesn't matter what planet you are on. When you are in circuitry, you are in circuitry. And so when you are in circuitry, it does not matter what quote unquote influence you are having from another star system, because you are being influenced by where you are, you see, and you are being influenced by the elementals that are alive around you and moving through you. And so this is true in all the indigenous cultures. So they are in tune with the earth of the mother, you see. So they are in rhythm with that, with all the frequencies of the elements, and also aware of the mastery within the form of how the elements move, not only externally throughout nature and creation, but also internally. And this is the power that the human possesses, you see, in its original blueprint, is the power to create, you see. And so there is this activation of circuitry, the power of creation itself, you see. And when you are, no matter where on the planet you are, you see, you have these moments where you are simply in tune with what is, you see. So it is not so much that Pleiadians are coming here with our specific techniques and our specific rattles or our specific drums or anything like that, you see. It is the same elements, you see, coming in and being in right relation with, you see. And this is simply the natural alignment and rhythm that is coded within the form, you see. It is just the way that when we are aligned, we're aligned, you see. And this is just the natural expression of it, you see. There is a natural desire, an impulse to work within the nature, within and without, you see. There is this natural desire to play in creation. You see, playing consciousness. This is making sense to you?
Yes, absolutely. And so it's all about the deeper connection. It's all about the circuitry, and not so much the actual action or ritual itself, but it's the deeper connection. And what I'm hearing is it's all really the connection to the DNA. And that's something that we brought up even earlier of this is ritual and ceremony is embedded in the DNA. And this is why our ancient ancestors and ancient civilizations even took part in rituals and ceremonies in cultures all over the world. That's not even just one culture. It's really every single ancient culture has some sort of ritual or ceremony in their own way. And so even hearing you say that there was a reorganizing of the DNA, and so would you say that the whole purpose behind it is to come back into the original blueprint, to remember the actual blueprint of what the original blueprint of the human DNA is meant to be? Is that really the purpose behind it?
Yes, my dear. Exactly, precisely. You see, because if you are not connected into the fullness of the activation of your DNA, you're not connected into the fullness of who you are, and into the fullness of your power, you see, as a creative being. You see, this was all the stories, external stories. We outsource the power, you see, in all the stories. You see, most of the stories have the power outsourced to something outside of yourself. You see, they give that there's a creator outside, there's a God outside, there's all these things outside, and we know we could be pushing some buttons, you see, because the threads go so deep, you see. But the truth is, you see, this was always what was originally taught with Jesus as well, you see, is the power is within, you see. The kingdom of heaven is within, you see. You see, it has never been outsourcing the power to an external force, you see. So when you are fully connected into your 13 strand DNA, which Mary Magdalene, Jesus, his mother, these were beings, high level beings that were very tuned into this, very, very, this was the why the Magdalene got named Magdalene, you see. This was not her name. This was not her birth name, you see. The Magdalene means the tower, you see. And the reason she got the name the tower, you see, is because you could see with the visible eye her tower, her internal connect, her 13th strand, you see, of light. Her column of light was so connected in, so bright, so activated, pulsing through her form up to the heavens and down to the earth. You could see it moving all the time. It was towering over, you see, it was towering above, you see. So this light coming through her tower, through her core, was so intensified, you see, that she got the name Magdalene, you see. That was the title, you see, because it was so visible. You see, this light was so visible. So this was true for Yeshua as well, and her mother and his mother, you see. So these were beings that were, and what is that tower? That is the 13. So they were fully aligned within the 13 strands of DNA. And this was directly coming from the Pleiadian frequencies, you see, because we are aligned we're activated in all 13, you see. So coming and bringing in these avatars this was why we had to do it through what you would consider immaculate conception, parthenogenesis, however you want to say it, you see, but without the interference of other DNA coming in, you see. It had to be pure like that. So coming in straight from the source, you see, birthing these avatars in that did not have any mixing of DNA, you see. And what this does, it creates these lineages then of Pleiadian source lineages that are fully activated in the 13 strands. You see, have not lost it. You see, and so they are the anchor points of remembrance. Then you see that start to then receive the humans. You see. And so this is what the role of Jesus and Mary Magdalene was, you see, was to continue this blood lineage, you see, in the actual blood, in the actual DNA. So they did have children. We're getting very off topic, you see. We know this is not the intention of this conversation, but it's coming through for whatever reason. So I guess we just say what is coming, you see. But so this is really part of it, you see. And we really had another part to this whole conversation, but we really lost a question in all of these conversations. So maybe you can get us back on track, my dear.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we went a little off track, because that's so incredibly powerful. You know, we were really tuning into the DNA, and the ceremonies and the rituals are like the purest intention of it is to bring us back into the remembrance of who we are and our internal power, and the reorganizing of our DNA and coming back into the 13 strands, because we do have, and even scientists will say that we do have all of these dormant parts of our DNA, and they don't know what the purpose of them are. So they literally call them junk DNA, but we know that evolution doesn't work that way. Everything has a purpose. And so just because we don't understand it on a scientific level doesn't mean that DNA doesn't have an importance and an intention. And so as we're coming back into the remembrance of who we are and our power, and we're in this higher circuitry, it's giving the opportunity, as our hearts are opening, for those dormant parts of our DNA to start plugging in and weaving, so the full 13 strands can come online, which is our original blueprint. And so ceremonies and rituals, because they're bringing us back into presence, they're bringing us through these ancient, which we can look at ancient or just higher consciousness initiations, which is what I'm hearing of you even sharing the purpose of sharing the Immaculate Conception and the walk of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, even, of these very advanced souls coming in, had to come through the light conception, Immaculate Conception, because their DNA was coming in the purity of the form of being activated into the 13th blueprint, because it was actually coming down. And what I'm seeing, what I'm getting a visual of, is how you're speaking of Mary Magdalene getting the name Magdalene, of being the tower, this connection, this pillar of light coming straight down from source. And so if we think of life actually coming into the womb of a mother, if we're thinking of Mother Mary and Immaculate Conception, and Yeshua coming down in the purest form, because all of the DNA is plugged in, the full remembrance is there, which then allowed him to come here and, you know, play his role as the Messiah, but in the fullest power of the human form, and really showing us what the human form is capable of.
Right, and not only capable, what it is intended, you see. So it is not also pie in the sky. It is really just what is, you see. It is
What
really
it's designed for.
Is, you see. And so the other piece to this here is that when the Pleiadians came, you see, there was also some things that did go a little sideways. You know, there was some rape of these other you know, other agendas of reptilian, you know, energetics here that did get into the DNA, you see. And so there was also, so that is why we have so many humans now, you see. There is still a thread that is still alive, you see, of the 13th strands, you see, activated, you see. But then there's also many that are that have a certain percentage, you see, of many races, you see. And so that is a little bit why it is the blueprint is still there, you see, but then there is a way that those other energetics play into it that create a little bit of an interesting timing in how it all gets to unfold to come back into that original remembrance. Is this making sense to you?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense of how there's like a basically crossbreeding through many different I don't know if we want to call them lineages, but of these kind of
races, of extraterrestrial races. You see.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Which makes perfect sense of how we're, and so would we say that that's, where do I want to go with this? Do we say that is then the reason for, or maybe not the reason, but that's why there's also a lot of I don't know if I want to say distortion, but density down here. And so we're remembering, it almost feels like we're kind of in the conflict then of this inner DNA battle of what's kind of coming back into the purity, which is that why there's like, I'm just feeling, right, we're like in these internal, like, there's the wording or the saying of like meeting my inner demons, or you know, I'm at war with myself, and then it's the internal to the external, and we see what's happening on our planet where there is a lot of what some people would say, you know, terrifying things in the human psyche, or even demonic things that are happening, or actual physical wars that are happening. And if the purity of the frequency of the human, like the actually original blueprint is this 13 and it's connected into love, then is it these other races within our DNA that's creating this internal, I don't know if we would call it distortion, because it just kind of is what it is.
Yes, you could view it like that. You see, that is definitely not an inaccurate description, you see, for sure, you see. And so you also have to consider here that you have many star seeds, positive star seeds coming onto your planet right now, coming in through human forms, you see, just regular mothers and fathers, you see, coming in with these tampered DNA blueprints, you see, but they're coming in order to restructure, you see. So Shiloh, Ava, you know, several of the ones here listening, you see, would fit in that category. You see, there are many that are coming in who already contain on a soul level the activations that are being required to come back into the frequencies that are being asked for on this planet here. So it is almost like you're coming in as the avatars that you know yourselves to be, you see, through these the limitation of these forms, but with the powers and the remembrance to reactivate back to the original, you see, because you come as a soul level with that imprint. So it's almost like you're coming in with that imprint, lighting up that imprint on a soul level into these human forms that have the apparent limitations, you see, that almost override any of the distortion that could be there, you see. And that is the process that many of the humans are going through right now, is this overriding of the distortion within the DNA, you see. It is this kind of forcing the pushing out. It's almost like if you do like a parasite cleanse, you see, when you are getting rid of all the worms inside the body, you see, you take the herbs and whatnot, you see, pushing out all that does not belong, you see. And that is what is happening with the frequency of light that is coming in through the souls that are choosing to incarnate right now, is pushing out all of those aberrant frequencies that are not part of the original plan. Is this making sense to you?
It makes so much sense. And it's so funny because I just got a message the other day. I was like, I need to do a parasite cleanse, but even further than it being physical, like actually doing a physical parasite cleanse. But I also got a message like energetically doing a parasite cleanse by pulling more light than I ever have before into my body. And I wasn't sure what that was all about, but just as I'm hearing that, it's like, oh, that makes sense. That just everything that is not actually in harmony with the original blueprint is there's parts of that within myself internally that is ready to be released.
Yes, and this is for everyone. You see, this is seemingly like a physical level discussion here, but it is really beneficial for if you are feeling called to do a parasite cleanse, because what is happening here on the more energetic level is that these parasites do contain some of these aberrant frequencies that we're talking about, you see, and do contain these what you want to call it, whatever race you want to consider it, you see, but it's not part of the original blueprint, you see. We'll put it simply like that, you see. And so when you do the parasite cleanse, not only are you making your body stronger and more healthy, but you are really creating more space for that light to be there, you see, because if you are imbalanced like that, then these worms, these start to take over. They have these little armies inside, you see, and then they really get a hold, and then it does turn into the ways that we manifest in the world do come out a little bit sideways. It does raise the fears. It does raise the frequencies of their agenda get raised in the form, you see, when these parasites start to have a little bit more of a hold in the form. So when we cleanse, you see, we get it all in check, you see, then we are in right relationship with the light within, you see, and that is really being able to hold in the higher agendas here, see, of really turning on the original blueprint, you see. Is it making sense?
It makes total sense, and that's actually just really fascinating, and really empowering as well. We have the opportunity on a physical and energetic level to start cleansing and purifying our vessels so that we can remember, so that we can bring this remembrance of who we truly are, right? And I think that, and I know for myself in the past, right, a lot of people, and myself included, have had stories of that it has to be complex and difficult, and there's no way that I'm not that powerful, and the ego wants to come in and bring in these limitations and tell us something different, and it really gets to be as simple as just remembering who we are, the essence of who we are, the originality of the blueprint of the human form, and how, you know, anyone who's listening to this, it's part of what we've come here to do. And it doesn't have to be this big thing that we go out and achieve. It's really this internal state of being. And I've heard you say this so many times, DiYeena, and it's literally the reason why the acronym of this podcast is even called play, right? It's Pleiadian Light Ascension Yard, but play is the frequency of really here to play and surf consciousness and experience and explore and get curious. And it's why we love having these conversations with you, the curiosity and the awe and the wonder. I feel like that even helps open our hearts and spark the deeper understanding of how to really to turn these lights on inside, this essence of who we are. And so I just want to share with everyone too, like, it doesn't have to be this big complex thing either.
Yes, we love this. This is very good. Keep it in the simple, you see. This is really the way. It should always feel the simple, you see. It can always feel the simple. We'll put it like that, because some people really come for the challenge, you see. And we love you all too that like the challenge, you see. And what we'll say here, you see, is that we are also, it's a very, very timely time to be having this conversation around the cleansing and the parasite removal and all these things, because we're, for those who are new here, we have the moon cycles that we tune into here within the membership, you see. And so we are in the moon. Within the play community here, there's a community you can plug into. You see, we're in the moon of rejuvenation. You see, this is a month, a cycle of internal cleansing and resetting and coming back into wholeness, you see, within yourself, you see. So it's a really aligned time to be considering how to really come into these deeper levels of purification within yourself in order to have the clarity of why you come. You see, you're coming with the codes. You're coming with the codes of wholeness. You see, so coming into these forms, it is necessary at times to do these cleanses, to be reminded of that wholeness, to be reminded of that frequency of wholeness. You see, because you are here to activate it in the form. Well, it's really simple in that way. Are we still talking about rituals and ceremonies? We're not sure, you see.
I feel like we got off topic a little, but I feel like the topic is, I feel like it's all so deeply connected, because it's the ceremony and ritual is like the invitation here, because I feel like we can kind of bring this back around and wrap this back up in a really beautiful way of the rituals are the daily practice that gets to be the thing that we're even talking about, like the simplicity or the not so simplistic, right? As DiYeena saying, some people come for the challenge. I know that I love a good challenge. I mean, I literally just put myself in a cave by myself in the dark for 8 nights, which was extremely challenging. So I love to do things to push myself that don't really seem super simple. And yet, if we're just asking ourselves, like, what can we do daily to really start building the circuitry? It's to start creating some rituals for yourself of being in that connection, opening your heart. And that can be as simple or as complex as you really want to make it, but it gets to be very simple. And it's the intention, it's the presence behind the ritual itself. And as you continue to do these daily rituals, it's going to bring you more into the remembrance of who you are and your path moving forward. And you get to be in a deeper awareness and have that intuitive guidance open up of how you are being called to continue to walk down this path of remembrance, of activating the encoding of the 13 frequency in the original blueprint within you, of what is your role, what are you being called to on a higher aspect and level, and what has your higher self signed you up for that maybe you're not even aware of. You can bring that awareness in through opening the heart and being in daily ritual, and then through the daily ritual being called possibly into a ceremony where, okay, now you're ready to go through the next stage and there's an initiation that's ready for you. And so that's actually there's then a call for then a ceremony for you to step into the new form, as DiYeena is saying. And what I'm tuning into with that is the more that we continue to tune into these new forms, what it's actually bringing us into is not really a new form at all. It's the original form is really what I'm feeling and I'm hearing into. And so I feel like that's how we can really bring it back in and have a deeper understanding of that this is all connected, right? It's everything that we've been talking about. We've said, right, we've gotten a little off topic, but I don't feel like we really have it all. I feel like it's all so interwoven together. And so, yeah, the invitation is really tuning into what is the ceremony, or what is the daily ritual that you're being called into, and what is really true for you in that essence, what is true for you within that, and how are you being called to really honor yourself and the sacredness of that. And it's all through the circuitry of the heart.
We couldn't have said it better ourselves, you see. And we are going to depart now. This is time, you see, and we love you all very dearly. We are grateful for your service in the world. And we give you blessing, you see, that you are able to stay in the circuitry of the heart, to be in your life ceremony, to be in your daily rituals, to create the circuitry of love in whatever ways you can. Blessings from the Pleiadian family. We love you very dearly. We will see you very soon. Blessings.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, DiYeena, the Living Ma, for being here with us. As always, so grateful, sending so many blessings back in return. And so much gratitude for you, Ava, for being here and being this sacred vessel for this higher wisdom to come through. So much gratitude. And yeah, if there's anything that you want to share before we go ahead and close up today.
Just that I trust that this message was exactly what you needed to hear today.
Beautiful. And so if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe so we can continue to bring more of this to you. And as DiYeena was sharing, we do have an online membership. And so if you want to come be a part of that, where we get to dive deeper into this, please come check it out, come join. There's many different levels of the membership, from free all the way up to monthly moon circle, and also a leadership circle as well. And so with that, we will end our call, sending you all so many blessings, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.